this video is going to be a little bit different. I just wanted to do something where I show some of my old PCs and just say thanks to all the subscribers. We've now got over 1,000 subscribers, so that's really great to see. And yeah, I don't think I've really properly shown a lot of these computers or the story behind them. And we'll start with the oldest on the left. And this was a PC I built in sort of 98, around 98. And I built it for a friend, and then once he'd finished with it and upgraded, he gave that back to me. And so I've still got this PC in my collection. And yeah, it kind of is the oldest PC I've got that I know the history of. And yeah, it's kind of one of the original sleepers with this style of PC. You don't know what's going to be inside until you actually open it. You know, there was no side windows. There wasn't even a side panel. You know, when you take the top off, the whole thing comes off. And I'll just show you what's inside, because we've sort of featured a lot of these components in various videos. I've done a video about the motherboard, about the processor, etc., but not the system as a whole, I guess. But I've used it for other stuff. You know, I think I looked at Office 97 on this system, but I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll have a look at this. And shall I switch it on? This was an AT case, so the power button used to have an AT power supply. It's now got an ATX power supply, and so I've wired up the reset switch as the power button. You can hear the hard drive, and we've got a Voodoo 3000. It's a Cyrix MII-300, and we're waiting for the memory to count up. I'm not sure why this drive keeps shutting automatically, but that's what it's doing. And we've got it says 262 meg. Well, it'll be 256. So we'll see if it boots up. It should do. It's got a Fujitsu hard drive in there, and we should be able to boot into Windows 98. And we'll skip the disk jack. It almost sounds like the hard drive sound is coming through the speakers. So I've plugged in a USB mouse. Couldn't track down a PS2 mouse, but it should work with the USB. That's really strange. The sound of the CD drive is coming through the speaker. I don't know why it's doing that. I've never noticed that before. Anyway, we're going to boot into Windows and we'll be able to hear the Windows startup sound. So I've never ever experienced this before. So you can hear the sound of the CD drive coming through this speaker as it's searching the drive for drivers. It is so very strange. I'll just put those there so we can carry on hearing them if we want to. That is so odd. it's not found the mouse yet, but it's decided to install the the plug and play monitor, and it's scanning the CD for drivers for the USB mouse. Have you ever come across this before? Has it still got the right time? It's almost got the right time. It's only out by about 10 minutes. So this PC has got a range of games on, such as GL Quake is the main one that I've been playing. It's also got Tomb Raider, Solar Winds, Invaders, I think some of the sound of the hard drive is actually coming through the speakers. So I'm just going to start GL Quake so we can see the 3DFX logo. And has it crashed? This isn't, I haven't used this for quite some time. So yeah, it doesn't seem to want to work very well. We'll give it another try. Okay, so we've got it running, and I'll just run through a quick benchmark. Because you can play Quake on a Cyrix processor. It is going to be slower than a Pentium, of course, but with 3DFX Voodoo 3 helping out, you do get a reasonable amount of speed. It is certainly playable. So we got 47.3 frames per second there. The resolution of this is 640 by 480. So 47 frames per second is very playable. But yeah, this is oh look, Sky Roads, CD player, 3D Mark 99. So yeah, this is my sort of Windows 98 machine. I replaced the defrag tool, and so it thinks it's Windows ME, even though it's not. And yeah, 3D3 there, and USB working. I'm using a USB mouse. So let's show you what's inside. I'll just shut this down. So around the back of this case, you'll see we've got, this is a adapter for the old style of keyboard connector. Yeah, this is an AT case, so we've got the COM and printer and another COM port, video card, sound card, and an expansion for USB, and also mouse can go there. If we pull off the case, loud sound warning. The whole top comes off, and inside is a sort of upside down hard drive. Some of these drives used to work better upside down, or that you'd have problems, turn them upside down, and they'd be fine. That's the Fujitsu drive there. We've got a tiny ATX power supply here. This is an ATX 500. It is like one of the cheapest power supplies ever, but this is a low power system and I haven't had any problems with it. Need some wood to touch, obviously. But inside we have a sound card, USB expansion is connected to the motherboard, and this is an AGP Pro PC 100 motherboard. So it's got the ATX connector here, and also it's got the AT connector underneath. So yeah, this row just there, I'm gonna have to get a torch. So the row in there is for the old style AT power supplies, and we've got a small socket 7 heatsink and fan here. This is actually disconnected because I've got this larger Zalman fan here with a fan speed controller here blowing across this processor, and then also air going onto the Voodoo 3000. Yeah, people recommend getting some cooling onto the Voodoo 3 cards to kind of help them live longer. But yeah, potentially I should probably connect up this fan as well so that there's direct air going onto the cooler. But it does make it quite a cool system, cool and quiet system with this fan here. And the bottom of the case has rusted, and yeah, that's the system. It's got SD RAM back there, yeah, it's a neat little system, nice and compact. And you'll have also spotted that it's got ISO slots at the bottom, but they're not in use. It used to have a Teratech sound card in it. And this system's using about 75 watts at the moment, which I guess is fairly low, but maybe about average. But I've not really paid that much attention to this system. It's got a BIOS date of 1999. Oh, it's got a patch of 2002. Next is the Windows XP tower, which I've recently done a video about. And yeah, it's got a GeForce 6600, an Athlon XP 3000, 1 GB of memory, and an old 40 GB hard drive. And yeah, this is useful for old software, old games, and it's also got lots of PCI slots, so that'll be useful for older SCSI devices and things like that. We'll just boot this up, listen to the Windows XP startup sound, and then I'll show you what's inside. in case you haven't seen the other video. It tends to take a while for this one to recognize the USB mouse. Not too sure why, but yeah, let's just show you what's inside this. Apologies if the sound is too loud in some parts and quieter in others. I am kind of trying to work on that, but then it then makes it take a lot longer for editing and things. So yeah, and this PC uses about 90 watts up to about 125, 130 watts, and could do with a faster main drive really. And if you just listen to this, when I switch it off, you'll hear the hard drive sound, which is a Quantum. So inside this PC we have a full-size ATX motherboard. We have an Antec 380 watt power supply, 80 plus, and GeForce 6600, an Arctic cooling copper silent 2. That's a really nice heatsink for these systems. It's quite quiet, has a copper core. And then yeah, we've got a hard drive, optical drive, floppy drive that doesn't work, and this motherboard's got IDE and SATA, although really early generation SATA, and the memory here, 3 slots. And it's an AOPEN AK77-600GN motherboard with a capacitor that I need to replace. I have replaced one of these capacitors many years ago, probably about 4 years ago, but I should have replaced the whole set because one of them now is bulging. So here, this is the capacitor that I replaced because it's black and gold, and these brown ones are the ones that I didn't replace. And yeah, this one's bulging here. So really all these brown ones could do with replacing. This is another PC that I've had since new, I guess. So I bought and built this system in about 2008, 2009, deliberately to build an Intel Q6600 system. At the time it was a processor that was 2.4 gigahertz, quad core, and you can just turn up the front side bus and get a 3 gigahertz processor. What I kind of didn't realize at the time was how much power and how much heat that processor generates. So yeah, this I'll show you what's inside. This motherboard has a chipset heatsink on it, and it gets really hot. So, but I'll switch it on and show you this system. It's really quiet, which is nice. And it's currently running at 2.4 gigahertz. It's got 4 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM running dual channel, and it's got a 64-ish gigabyte SSD drive running Windows 10, and it runs it okay. It's not the quickest, but the SSD drive means that it runs at a reasonable speed. And this is the PC that is often in the side of my videos over here, because it's got IDE, and I will use it for sort of wiping drives and checking drives and things like that. So it's always got Crystal Disk Mark, always got Crystal Disk Info, and various other tools that are useful. But it rarely has any space as the drive in it is quite small. So this is Task Manager on it. It's using 2.2 gigabytes of memory, quad core, and yeah, Wi-Fi connection, and yeah, SSD. So there's not really that much to show on this, but I'll show you core temp. So it's currently at 37 degrees, and it doesn't have the TDP, which is a shame, as that's the kind of bit that's most worth looking at, I guess, in terms of Intel Core 2 quad processors. Let's see if CPU-Z shows us anything. It doesn't really show us anything that interesting. So I'll shut this down and I'll show you why this PC is so useful. For some reason on this, the start button doesn't always show up straight away. So as you can see, it's a little bit cramped. It's a micro ATX case. This fan is a little bit, like the clip on the plastic is broken, so it's a little bit wonky, making the whole thing heatsink appear wonky, but it's not entirely wonky. And let me get a light. Okay, so we've got a VS450 power supply. I haven't had any problems yet. Famous last words. And we've got 2 DDR2 slots here. So the maximum is 4 gigabytes. If this motherboard had 4 slots, we could go up to 8 gigabytes, but it doesn't. And this is the motherboard heatsink that gets really hot. We've got a network card in here, and this is some passively cooled Radeon HD5450 or something like that. And then, yeah, we've got Molex and SATA connections and a pencil, and it's got 4 SATA connections here. It's also got IDE, which is really handy for if we want to connect another drive. We've got some extra USB slots at the bottom, but apart from when it crashes, which it did a couple of times on a recent video, this generally just works. It's kind of not really, well, you could play games on it, depending on the game, really. I think I got Fortnite running on it and Rocket League with a different graphics card in it and an extra drive for storage, that kind of thing. But yeah, this mostly is just a PC that doesn't have much value, but in terms of how much the components are worth, but it has value in usefulness, and it's not too big. And it's, yeah, other thing worth pointing out, the feet, I lost one of the feet on this, so we now have a little wooden foot glued onto the bottom here. And I'll just switch it on one more time just to show you, let you know how much power it uses. So it's using about 98 watts now. And then under load, depending on the what you're doing, and if you're using a graphics card in this, the load goes up. It's using jumped up to about 122 watts then. So this is mostly the processor in this system using that power rather than, say, graphics and other things. But I suppose the motherboard contributes to that as well. So yeah, it was showing about 80 watts to 120 watts. And yeah, I just put some stress on the processor. So it's using about 120 watts at the moment, and the score there is about 750. So we're now moving over to some of the newer systems. This is the Lenovo ThinkCentre M92P, and it's an Intel i3-3220T. And if you've watched the recent videos, this is a little mini PC that I've set up with Windows XP. And that's because I wanted a low power Windows XP machine that I could use for like messing around with if I didn't want to use this bigger system. And yeah, I'll link to the videos for these systems where I've done videos in the description below, so you can sort of find out more about all of these little systems. And this is a little cute PC that I just like it. I'm surprised by how much I like it. It's kind of like one of these but tiny, and importantly has a little optical drive so I can actually install games and things, like old games. So yeah, it runs pretty nicely, and it can take more memory, and it's got 4 gig, but Windows XP's only seeing 3.33 gigabytes, so there's no point really for me to upgrade the memory in this. It could take a faster processor, but for me it performs well enough. And it's also got a hard drive in it rather than an SSD, and again, for me and what I want it for, it's perfectly quick enough. So I'll shut this down very quickly, show you what's inside, because I've shown you what's in the other ones so far, so you might not have watched the other videos. So yeah, I'll just quickly show you what's inside. So this uses a laptop power brick, and therefore there's a little power connector there. This is the optional CD cage, so I've got to unscrew it from this, disconnect these, and make sure I don't lose these screws. This whole PC should slide out of the cage. Cage is for sort of the optical drive and mounting onto the back of TVs and other things. And this is the little PC. You can see it is super small. It kind of looks too small to be an actual computer, but we've got one screw here that we need to undo. Once we've undone the screw, the front sort of top slides forwards. That comes away. We've got the processor under here, as far as I'm aware, and then the fan here, although I haven't taken this apart to sort of have a proper look. We've got the hard drive here, and under here we've got 2 RAM slots, SATA connection here, battery, etc. So yeah, you can see this little thing here is that CPU release clutch mechanism. That's part of that. So under here is the processor. So I've put the lid back on, and if we put this on top of this PC, you'll see how small it is. It just is tiny. It's a little bit thicker than this case, but it's so small, and yeah, effectively this has more power than this whole PC and this PC, you know, and these other PCs over here. But yeah, let's move on to the next PC. So this is a kind of project I've been working on, and it needs a better base really. It's basically made out of Lego. The idea was to create a Lego cube and then put sort of LEDs at the bottom so it could light up, but yeah, I don't know what happened with this. I kind of got to this point and then stopped. We've got an SFX power supply here, which is 80 plus. We've got a mini ITX motherboard in here. We've got a SATA drive, and I think it's got maybe 8 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM, and it's a 4th gen Intel. So let's connect it up and I'll have another look of what's in it. So I'm gonna switch it on, and one of these is a power button and one's a reset. There's little LEDs here built into Lego. And it's originally from a Chill Blast PC, this motherboard, so that's why it's got that splash screen. And I don't think there's anything on the SSD, which is why we've gone into the BIOS. It's an Asus motherboard, and we have got an Intel i5-4460T. I went for the T because I wanted this to be a low power system. I think one of my ideas for this was that it was going to be a file server, but then I ended up setting up that little tiny laptop which uses about 10 watts, whereas this uses, it's currently using 25 watts. So still not a lot, but 10 watts is, you know, more than half this. And yeah, you know, you can underclock this system if you wanted to run it at a slower speed. And there's quite a lot of options within this. CPU temperature 22. But yeah, what would you do with this system? Do you want to see more videos on this? I do need to either finish this or use it for something else, basically. I've spent a lot of time buying clear Lego. It's surprising how rare these sort of blocks, these sort of different blocks are. It's difficult to get this kind of Lego new, and ended up buying some from some Lego website, and I didn't realize till afterwards that they were not genuine Lego pieces. So you can sort of see the older ones are clearer, but often off color, and then the sort of creamy, not as clear ones are the non-genuine Lego pieces. Yeah, which is a shame. I did want to keep it all original Lego, but yeah, I think that was maybe part of what you can see on that side. They're all these non-genuine Lego pieces, so I think that was kind of what put me off, partly put me off continuing with the system. There's lots of little gaps. These are all ventilation. So yeah, this is a little cube, Lego cube, and then we'll move on to the Mac. So we've gone from PCs from like 1998 all the way to 2009 and then beyond, sort of i3 and third generation and then fourth generation, and we've been able to use this humble little VGA cable the whole time, and only on the later ones we've switched to USB because PS2 ports have disappeared. But yeah, in this PC ecosystem, VGA cable, just easy, works. And then now we go to the Mac and we're presented with USB, obviously, Thunderbolt and HDMI. So yeah, we now need to switch monitors. But anyway, let's quickly look at the Mac. I think for this one we'll cut to a video. Here's one I made earlier of this Mac booting up. 75 watts, not doing anything. That's actually quite a lot of air coming through. You could use it as an air filter potentially. I mean, it kind of looks like one, doesn't it? So you should be able to hear that. And we'll just show you what's inside this Mac. It's quite interesting. This lifts away. Just a big metal tube. Very, very swish, very nicely made. And then here we have the quad channel RAM. Check out my other video about quad channel RAM versus dual channel and single channel. And then here we've got the main drive attached to this 1 terabyte drive, and then the 2 graphics cards side by side. And on the inside there's just a massive triangular heatsink that we can't see. It's got a load of little tiny screws that aren't Phillips, and there's power supplies in there as well, and they're all connected at the bottom through one big central sort of board. But yeah, this is like just an alien pod, really. It's so very different to sort of every other computer out there. It's quite cool. But yeah, nice little PC slash Mac slash computer, and it's an 8-core 16-thread system with 16 gigabytes of memory, and I'm running Windows 10 on it and VMware. And with VMware you can run whatever you want, really. Windows 7, I've got a Windows 2000 on here, and then I've also used it for some other stuff, you know. I've cloned old hard drives, put them on here to try and get them running, and that's in another video. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed having a look through these PCs. And yeah, this is the little power meter that I use, and they're like £10 or around that. Amazon have them, and various other places have them. Really useful. But yeah, let me know if you want more information about any of these systems, and if you have any ideas of things to do with these systems. Definitely, you know, finding this great for the old 3DFX games, good for Windows XP, and the connections on this. Another little Windows XP machine. This is useful, as I've explained, for sort of older drives, but when I need to access them from Windows 10 with modern tools and things. This one's useful for VMware stuff, and this one's the sort of project that never got completed, and I've never really actually found a use for it. I just enjoyed building a little Lego PC cube. I should probably finish that off at some point. But yeah, thanks for watching, and if you're not a subscriber, feel free to subscribe. Be doing lots more old computer stuff like this, looking at old PCs, and also going to be looking at some old laptops and stuff. So thanks again. Bye bye. Yes. Just a big metal tube